Hey cats, what's happening? Before I go any further, I'm going to make a disclaimer here. I'm not a professional mechanic and don't pretend to be. But on the other hand, there are some things that I do to save myself money now and then. And one of the things I'm going to do today is change some fluids on the bike. It's needing some attention here. So I'll look it over real good. I'll change the motor oil and the oil filter, and I'm also going to do the primary chain case and change that oil too. I know it's been leaking a little bit on the bottom there, and yeah, it'd just be nice to get some new fluid in there, a new gasket, and clean things up a little bit. Now, as far as mechanical skills go, I took shop class when I was in high school. We tore apart a little, like a 2.5 horse Briggs and Stratton engine and put it back together. So I had some knowledge of, the piston and the rings and the crankshaft, the bearings, and all that kind of stuff. Earlier in my life, I had an old Farmall tractor, a Farmall H, and that thing had been sitting out in the field for an eternity. It was all froze up, and I was able to completely tear down that motor, pushed the seized pistons out of there, cleaned everything up, put new rings in, and piston sleeves, kind of rebuilt the whole motor. So it was kind of a backyard mechanic situation, but we got it running and it ran good for many years. We used it for brush hogging and farm work. I've also worked on the vehicles. I've done a lot of brake jobs and just other tweaks to save. I mean, you can do your own brake job. You can save yourself hundreds of dollars versus to going to a repair shop. So I'm going to save myself some money by changing my oils today. And I think I'm going to get started on the primary case. I'm going to start by taking this little cover off. And when you do that, you don't want to take the bolts off of there in succession. You want to go here, 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 and here, and loosen them up staggered, so you don't torque or twist anything there. Yeah, see, there's not even a gasket in there. What we've got is a rubber O-ring in there, and that's all going to have to be cleaned off. I don't know what they got on there, but whoever did that last, which was probably done in the shop, it looks like they got some kind of grease on there, and then the rubber gasket is the only thing. So you can see where it was leaking here. You can see the oil where it was dripping from just that O-ring. Well, I got this new gasket now that I'm going to put in there, and the cover will go back over that, and hopefully that'll stop any future leakage. I've got a T40 Torx on the thing. I'm going to take the drain plug off, which is right on the bottom here, underneath there. And there we go. Look at that black tar coming out of there. This plug, you can almost kind of see some of the, it's a little magnetic, so it's got some little metal pieces stuck to it. So all this will have to be cleaned up real good before I put it back together. All right, I've cleaned up the cover. I pulled the rubber O-ring out from this groove here, and I've cleaned this groove all out. I've wiped all this down real good. So that's clean and ready for the new gasket. And I've also taken the plug and cleaned it. And I see the little magnet in there, and that little groove there was just caked full solid of what is probably magnetic metal debris. So now that I've got all that cleaned up, I've got the oil drained out of it, and I'm going to put the plug back in carefully, tighten it up. Again, I don't have a torque wrench, so I'm going to tighten it by hand, and I being that I have some experience, I know not to over tighten because that can strip things out, these threads on these cast parts. Got to be careful. So you just want to snug it up just to where it feels right, not too tight. Now I'm going to use this Lucas primary chain case oil, and 1 quart holds somewhere around 26 ounces, something like that. And I'm only going to need about 22 ounces. So I'm going to make sure that I don't overfill it. I don't want that oil coming all the way up to the clutch. It has to be just below the clutch to be full. Now I've got it on the jack stand and the bike's level. It's not tipped or anything, so this is the way it'll run. So after I think I'll start and put about 20 ounces in there and just see what happens after that. So how do I do that? So I've got this handy little funnel thing designed just for that, and that just snaps in like that, hangs there. You can pour the oil in there and it'll go in hopefully without getting all over the place. That's the plan anyway. I got a measuring container here and I've got it filled up to 20 ounces. So now I'm just going to pour that right in to the primary case. And just go nice and slow so it doesn't overflow. No need to make more of a mess, and I want to make sure that all 20 ounces gets in there, and then we'll check the level. Check the level by using this little screwdriver for a dipstick, and I'm going to go ahead and put 2 more ounces in there because I believe it called for a minimum of 22 ounces. So that puts 22 ounces of fluid into my case, and that should work out well. Now, if you overfill it, the oil comes all the way up into the clutch, and then the clutch will grab. So you'd have a lot of trouble shifting it, getting into neutral. When you put it into first gear, you'd go bang because your clutch will be hanging up. So you definitely don't want to fill it too full. You want to make sure you get it under the bottom of that clutch and no farther. Now I'm ready to put the cover back on. I've put the gasket on here, and I'm putting 1 screw in the top. You see the writing on there, you want that at the top where it says HD. You don't want it like sideways or upside down. I got 1 screw in there, and I'll start that right into the top. And obviously I need both hands to do this, so I'll show you when I get it done. And again, as these things are tightened, you want to go opposites. And those are snugged up pretty good. So there you go, the primary case oil is changed now. I just need to touch that up with some polish because I got, oil and grease on my cover there. And that job's done. So wasn't that hard, wasn't that difficult, but necessary, something you got to do. Next thing we're going to do is change the motor oil, so we come over to this side of the bike. And way down in here, right here, this is the hose, and there's a little clamp there, and there is a plug in the end of the hose, and that is clipped into this little clip that holds it in place. So I'm gonna have to bend that thing up, pull this out, and get it pulled out here where I can drain it into the pan. Okay, now I've got to pull down. I've got to take this clamp off with the screwdriver, and then I can pull this plug out, and that will drain all of my motor oil. And that way, no mess, no fuss, you know, with it getting all over the bike. It just comes out this hose here. So I think I can let that hose go. And hopefully it doesn't pop back up and get oil all over the frame. I was kind of hanging on to it here because it's kind of, maybe I can put a screwdriver there and keep it there. And that'll hold it until all that oil drains out of there. I got most of the oil out of there now. I'm just dripping a little bit. So I'm just going to push this plug back up in there all the way. I'll loosen this back up again a little bit and slip it down where it's going to clamp there so it doesn't leak. Tighten that back up snug. I want to crush the hose or split it. So just snug that up so it ain't gonna leak. And that'll go back up and hook into that little clamp underneath there. Oil's all drained out of the bike now. That leaves me one little nasty job to get the oil filter off, which you don't have much room in there to grab hold of it. Unscrew that, and I got a brand new one to replace it with. Oh, that was too ugly to show. I did get the oil filter off, but yeah, I got to invest in a little oil filter wrench for this thing because that was just way too difficult. And that thing was really socked on there tight. I had these big honking channel locks on there, and it was crushing into the chrome, and it was all I could do to get that thing to break loose. I got it off now. I'm going to let the oil drip out of there. I made a little funnel out of some plastic so it doesn't get all over the place. And as soon as that gets done dripping, I'll wipe that off. We'll put a little oil on the rim of the new one, and we'll be ready to roll. All right, I've put a little bit of clean motor oil on the rim there, and I've cleaned up the plate there, so I can go ahead and put this one right back on. And I think I showed you guys before, this one comes with that handy little nut on the end of it there. So when I go to tighten it back up, we can just do this and snug it up. I won't over tighten it. And that should do it. All right, brand new oil filter. And last thing, we'll just put 2 or 3 quarts of oil in there, and then we'll check the level, see if it needs a little bit more. Go from there. Once I get the oil in it, we'll be ready to ride. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, start it up. Just get the oil circulated through there. Then I'm going to check the oil again, just to make sure that all my fluids are up. Let me pull the choke out there. Don't you just love that sound? I think we're good to ride. So there you go, cats. That's oil change and a primary oil change in a 1999 Fat Boy. Some of them are a little different. The soft tails are kind of the same, depending on what model you have. The newer ones I don't know that much about, but hey, at least I can still wrench on mine. So till next time, guys, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a dime. And you'll be up to date on all my videos as they come along. So until next time, ride hard and die free.